You said your father won't know your child if I change your name. Yes, he told me, said your mother won't know your child. Child, if I change your name. But I told Jesus, I said it would be alright, be alright, be alright. If my father turns away now, and my mother turn away now. Yes, my brother, my baby sister, turn away, turn away. I told Jesus, be alright if you change my name, change my name, change my name. If he changed my name.
Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, we're here on this rainy Monday morning. You're listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership. I'm here with Emma Chappelle today, as always. And Emma, tell us about Mother's Day.
Oh, well, I had a wonderful Mother's Day. My family was in town. My granddaughter and my grandson and my two daughters are here, and my sister and my best friend's daughter and her son. We all went out to dinner. We had a great Mother's Day. I went to church yesterday and actually spoke about mothers. The pastor asked me to give a message about Mother's Day, and I did that. I talked about what it was like to be a mother, and he introduced me as a strong black woman, internationally known, et cetera, et cetera. And he wanted to know how I was able to balance my life with a career and at the same time raise my two daughters. And so I was able to talk about what it meant to be a mother, and the fact that in spite of my successes in life, I still felt that the most important thing that I ever did was have two daughters. My children are my life as my grandchildren. And so, of course, the church members were excited about that. I recognized the other mothers that were there, and we just had a good old-fashioned religious Mother's Day.
So tell us a little bit about your daughters.
I've been blessed to have two daughters that are doing well. My oldest daughter is a registered nurse, critical care, I forgot, CCRN, critical care registered nurse. And she now manages nurses at Independent Blue Cross. She always says she's on the dark side now. She worked the hospitals for years, and now she's on the insurance side, but she's still making the decisions on who gets help when they're in the hospital and what kind of services they get. And she manages a number of nurses. I think it's about 20-some. So she's doing well. My youngest daughter, my oldest daughter is named Tracy. My youngest daughter is named Dana, and she traveled and lived out in California. She's a world traveler. She's almost like a gypsy. She likes to move a lot. Her and her husband were very successful. Her husband was very successful. He's a banker. He was an investment banker for years, and when the stock market crashed in '08, he moved out of that and became a commercial banker, like me. And I used to tease him all the time that it was better to be a commercial banker than an investment banker, but investment bankers make more money. So anyway, make a long story short, my daughter was a homemaker, and she raised my granddaughter in New Jersey and California and Arizona and Pittsburgh and everywhere. So, and they both are fine people. And she was my youngest daughter has her MBA, and Tracy has hers in nursing. So both of them are doing fine. I've God has blessed me to have 2 wonderful daughters and 2 beautiful grandchildren.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you. And so you had a good dinner Saturday night.
Good dinner, yes, good dinner. My sister was with us, and we all had fun. We talked about old family stories. That's what happens on Mother's Day. Everybody comes, and it's a big family event, and that's what it was.
Great.
We missed my brother, though. He wasn't there.
Great. Yes, this is the first year without him.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So we said a prayer for his soul. But we had a good time. And then, like I said, Saturday, we celebrated Mother's Day on Saturday night because we heard the weather was going to be bad. And so we went out to dinner Saturday night. But then Sunday, we might as well still been celebrating Mother's Day because after church, then everybody came to my house and we just had fun.
Well, I spent mine mostly resting. And so Saturday I wasn't, I was on my iPad and researching and doing things. And
we went to a funeral.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, that's right. Remember, we went to a funeral on Saturday.
That's right. No, we went Friday.
Oh, that was Friday.
Friday,
okay.
Yes. Kiwana McKinney and her husband Chris lost Chris's mother, and that was a sad event. But they kind of made it a celebration of life, and we spent the day with them. And did that. And Saturday for me was a quiet day. I wanted to relax and catch up on some of the stuff that we would talk about today.
Oh, good.
And on a Sunday, I like to refer to my grandkids as my poopies. They're getting older. They don't like that.
No.
So my 15-year-old grandson is Jay, and I've got a 12-year-old going on 13-year-old, which,
almost a teenager.
Yes, almost the teenager that they're all getting up there.
Yes.
And so
they're not kids anymore.
Yes,
At least they don't want to be thought like that.
Yes, they're not. So he's Ryan, and then there is Sarah and Serena. And so I knew when they were coming in because I could hear their feet at the front door. And they come up the steps real fast.
Probably now, too.
And we could hear that. So they brought me some delectable cake and the goodies that I like and wonderful gifts. And my son, Randy, and my daughter-in-law, Shelley. And they celebrated with me.
Good.
And then they left to go over to her mother's, and I went right back to relaxing with my heating pad. So it was a decent day. One of the things I wanted to but to say, is that either the mothers were crying yesterday because of the weather. We got such horrible weather for mothers.
Yes, we did.
Horrible weather.
Yes, and made it very difficult for people trying to go out to brunch and things like that, the weather.
Yes.
And if you have arthritis, it made it really hard.
Yes, that's what I was suffering with. Kayla, how was your Mother's Day?
We celebrated Mother's Day last week because I'm very busy with church and everything. I had a lot of stuff to do this weekend. So I took my mom actually to the Phillies game last week when her favorite player retired and she was able to get a World Series ring.
Wow.
So that was her Mother's Day present. She got a World Series ring.
Wow.
And then I took her to brunch on Saturday after I left church because I had to teach and everything on Sunday morning. So I wasn't going to really have time to get up and make her breakfast and do much. But she enjoyed it. She also suffers with arthritis, so she was tired and I really wanted to do anything yesterday after church. She just She's like, I just want to go to sleep. I was like, cool, go to sleep.
Right on time.
It was clearly resting and sleeping weather. I talked with my sister a little bit yesterday, and she said she's in Harrisburg, and she said, oh, it's raining. She was going to go out, but she stayed in. So it was restful kind of weather.
I think a lot of people stayed in because it didn't seem to be as much traffic as you usually see on a Sunday.
Yeah. It was a very peaceful weekend.
Yeah.
I kind of just rested. I have many things to do, but I didn't do much of them.
It doesn't inspire you to do much.
It doesn't.
No.
It really doesn't.
It's, my niece used to say that, well, she does say, she says this is weather to sit back and have a nice cup of tea and a book.
Yeah.
And to catch up. So, Emma, this is going to be, this is the week before the election.
Yes.
And there's a debate tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And at 10:30 today, we're going to talk to our favorite political pundit and writer who's going to who's going to call in, and then we're going to have Maurice Floyd in the studio to talk to us a little bit about a variety of topics.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about, today is May 13th,
Yes.
and it's the anniversary of MOVE. And we certainly want to acknowledge how we felt, where we were, the things that we did, and how we think that the city may have principally changed
Since then.
since then, and going forward. So we have a lot on our schedule for today. And then there were some interesting articles in the paper.
Yes.
That we may want to go over.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of things.
Well, I know that, one of the things I wanted to talk about is, like you said, it's election time. And one of the key things that I want to talk about is the fact that there are going to be questions on the ballot.
Ballot questions.
And I read an article, I think it was this morning, that said that the questions are an easy vote for yes. And I think that, we should go over them at some point and talk about them so that people are informed. The first one was gender-neutral titles for council persons. And, right now they call them councilmen or councilmanic. And they want to make it more gender-neutral, such as council members or council member and or council. And so the question is, and is that all right with people? And I think a lot of us call them councilmen or councilpersons now. And so the question is for us to vote whether or not we agree that they should be called a council member or council members when we talk about them. And I do think right now we talk about, when it's plural, as council members. But and when it's a singular person, I think we call them council person or council man. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I guess what is the reason behind it? I think that they wanted to be gender neutral,
Right.
and I guess to denote the fact that anybody, man or woman, can be a council person.
Yeah.
And that if we're talking about the as a councilman, I think that let me just deal with the state of Pennsylvania. We have very few women in power.
Yes.
And I think words also matter, and how we describe something matters about how we see people.
Absolutely.
And so I think maybe this is going towards, how do we see people? How do we see people who have access to power?
And then more women are getting involved in
more,
politics now.
Yes, more women should. More
they
women
should.
are the majority in this city.
That's right.
But we tend to give our power away, don't recognize it. So I'm getting that signal. We're going to go to break. You're listening to WRD 96.5 FM, 900 AM, and we'll be right back.
Brothers and sisters!
Don't miss The Source.
Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
on Word Radio.
WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Temple University was founded on the belief that everyone deserves an opportunity to do and be more. Today, that's still our belief. We are committed to strengthening Philadelphia, starting with the community we share with our neighbors. Each spring, Temple's Office of Community Outreach and Hiring hosts the city's largest annual neighborhood job fair to connect local residents to new career opportunities. See what's possible. Temple.edu.
This is Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Need help with your Social Security, veteran benefits, or Medicare? Congressman Brendan Boyle is hosting a Senior and Community Expo Saturday, May 18th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Esperanza Academy Charter School on the 300 block of West Hunting Park Avenue. There'll be free health screenings, more than 100 local vendors, and a free light lunch. To RSVP, just call the Congressman's District Office or go online at boyle.house.gov. This advertisement was paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
The Kimmel Center offers free arts education programs to schools across the region. Teaching artists visit classrooms to educate, engage, and inspire the next generation using creative learning experiences, and schools take trips to the Kimmel Center for live performances. The Kimmel Center is committed to educating Philadelphia's youth by providing access to quality arts. For more information, visit kimmelcenter.org.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
U.S. taxpayer expense. You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
I've been so many places in my life and time. I've sung a lot of songs, I've made some bad rhymes. I've acted out my life in stages with 10,000 people watching. But we're alone now, and I'm singing this song to you. I know your image of me is what I hope to be. I treated you unkindly, but darling, can't you see? There's no one more important to me. Can't you see through me? 'Cause we're alone now, and I'm singing this song to you. You taught me precious secrets of a true love, holding nothing. You came out in front when I was hiding. So much better, and if my words don't come together, listen to the melody, 'cause my love is in there hiding.
We're back. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership. And we're going to go to the line because we found out that the legislation we were talking about was introduced by Derek Green. Councilman Green?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Mother's Day to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Every day is a Mother's Day, so
we hope so. Tell everybody.
That's right.
absolutely, because if I just say this and I say this to others, if men had to deliver babies, they have a much different world.
We clearly would now. You have that's clearly. So we hear that you introduced that legislation. Tell us why.
Yeah, I introduced this legislation. So I'm very active in the National League of Cities, and so National League of Cities is an organization very similar to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, made up of city council members, aldermen, as well as mayors from all around the country. And so I would go to these NLC conferences, and a lot of my colleagues would refer to each other as council member or council person. And then I remember coming back to City Hall from attending one of these conferences, and the placard outside my office says council member, but my business card says council man. But then the Oval Office in my office is council member at large. So we have this kind of very disjointed aspect in reference to how to refer to each other. And although it's a small measure, it is also symbolic because I think words have meaning. And so as you look at the code refers to elected members of the city council as councilman. And so my thought was we're going to election process. We'll have a new group of council members.
Yes.
Some will be reelected. Hopefully I'll get reelected. But we'll have a new body coming in January. So the thought was, let's introduce this legislation. We both got it voted out of the Long Government Committee. It was passed by council. But in order to make a change, we have to amend our charter and have a vote for the citizens to make that decision. And if it gets passed, then as we have the general election in the fall, and then we have our new 17 members of council, some new, some are returning, then we can move forward in January as cards are printed and other information to start using council member. And then we'll also have to make some changes to the code if this gets passed on May 21st.
Well, thanks for explaining. I want you to stay on for one more. Let's just go through the ballot questions. The question number 3, minimum wage. We kind of think we know, but why don't you explain a little bit more?
Well, also minimum wage, and that's something that we're trying to do all that we can at the local level in reference to those who are contracting with the city of Philadelphia or subcontractors. We all know that even at $15 an hour is not really a livable wage, and there's also pressure at the state level to increase our minimum wage because we have a big issue of poverty in our city. So anything that we can do that can help grow wages and provide more income for the people in the city of Philadelphia will help us to grow out of poverty.
Well, Councilman Green, I wanted to ask about that because I always had a problem with the fact that it's going to take till 2025 for us to get the $15 an hour. And I understand that this $15 minimum wage is going to come in increments. Can you tell us when will you get more than $7.25 an hour?
Well, there's a growing increments over time. Often follow what's called the Consumer Price Index, and we'll move that up over time. But at the same point, we have to also look at the impact this may have on small businesses, because small businesses also can't just immediately jump from, a certain wage to a higher wage. Now, a number of our small businesses are already in line or already paying a higher minimum wage. Those especially are conscious businesses, but we're trying to move the process. And unfortunately, we as the city of Philadelphia, we are the biggest city in the state. We're also impacted at the state level on what we can do and also the federal level.
I understand. So when do they get the first, if they vote yes for this increase in the minimum wage to $15, when do they get the next level increase? Do they get $8?
Yes, I would need to verify that in reference to legislation and also with our revenue department in reference to those contractors with the city of Philadelphia, also the city in reference to how those step increases go into effect. I believe it's annually, but the exact date, is it the date from the beginning of the year or the new fiscal year? That's something I have a question about.
Okay. So only thing I wanted to know is if as the voters vote, they know that they're not going to get $15 an hour right away. and that it's going to take time. It probably won't get it till 2025. But in the meantime, it'll go up a certain amount by a certain time. That's the only question I had on that. This is Emma, by the way. Yes. Okay.
So, and the last one, Councilman Green, is the traffic cops. Could you explain that one to our listeners?
Yeah, so this is an initiative from the council president, and if you notice that if you're in our city, especially in the center city core, there's a lot of construction, there's a lot of Jersey barriers, there's a lot of traffic downtown. You know, we've got all these delivery trucks now from, you know, some of the young millennials use Uber Eats and Grubhub, and there's all kinds of additional congestion in center city. And so my understanding, this is an idea that the council president had. He and some other my colleagues went to New York. New York has this concept of these traffic cops or public safety officers to help with congestion and traffic flow. And so this was an initiative from the council president as well to come this concept to the city of Philadelphia, but also a way of people to get their first step on their way into law enforcement. And that could also provide job opportunities as well.
So these are paid jobs?
Correct.
The public safety enforcement officer.
Right.
And they'll assist the police in the flow of traffic. And that's all they'll do, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Will these be civil service jobs?
So that's my understanding as well. I have to take a look at that in more detail, but that is my understanding.
Thank you, Councilman Green. We're going to call you back from time to time to explain some of the stuff that's happening in City Council, because people need to know, because we think some of our listeners believe that it operates too often in the dark.
Absolutely. They're looking for transparency.
We want transparency, and we need it. So thank you for being available for our call to get these ballot questions explained.
No problem. Anytime. It's always a pleasure to listen to you and also participate with Women Connected.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. We're going to Ernest Owens.
Hello.
Hey, Ernest. We miss you.
I miss y'all too.
You know, we definitely miss you, and we needed to get our
update.
our update from Ernest. We needed to have, you know, we were missing that update. We were missing that tea that you be spilling. And you know, normally you're here in the studio with us, but today, since we're on Monday, we just needed to talk to Ernest because we needed to figure out what was going on. And what do you think about this upcoming debate tonight?
Well, I'm going to be there in the live studio audience.
Oh, good.
That's going to be, you know, that's what I'm prepping for. We was going to run some stories today, but then we realized that, you know, this debate is coming up, and we really want to see, you know, it's hard to get in touch with the mayor. I know you know that.
Yes, we do.
So, for sure.
You know, every time we can get contact or access to him in a way that gets him that get to hear him say something, whether it's putting his foot in his mouth or saying something outrageous, you know, whatever the case is, you know, we want to get that opportunity to see the mayor and things. And there's been a lot of things that happened over this weekend. This has been a crazy weekend. And so much has happened. I mean, you got Bloomberg throwing $1 million in the PAC that's supporting Kenny. You got John Street suing the mayor. You got all this stuff going on, like, in this small stint of time. And I was like, also, it's Mother's Day, y'all. Like, it's so much going on Sunday. So taking all of that in, it's like, you know, I have to really see, you know, I want to see how all of this thunderstorm is going to play out tonight's debate. This is the televised debate. It's going to be the second time that all three of the candidates are going to be publicly debating each other. The first, of course, was with the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, where, you know, I'm the proud vice president of print, and I was able to grill Kenny on his remarks that he made about black people basically being overqualified and super talented and only want to work in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
He continues to backpedal and try to change what he meant by that. He's been really doing some weird things. Like, for example, he recently put a black woman in his cabinet.
Wow.
Technically, yes, but let me tell you what the trick
wow.
is.
Okay.
There's a trick to this.
Oh.
So whenever you get people who know this, some people don't, but the city issues bonds reports.
Yes.
And so in bonds reports, the mayor will always list at the top, who's in his cabinet, who's, in his leadership. And so I get those as press releases sometimes. Sometimes people, I can get public rights to know documents to keep up. And so what I normally do is the first thing I'll look at is his cabinet and say, what a damn shame it's not that many people of color. Specifically, there's no black woman on there or anyone of that matter, right?
Right.
I'll go and look. And I noticed I saw Agina Amir on there. Now, if you don't know who Agina Amir is, Agina Amir used to be the deputy communications director for the city. And then she got promoted when Nina Ahmad left. Now, Nina Ahmad was the deputy mayor of public recreation engagement and whatnot. Well, what he did was that title got demoted to director of public engagement, which meant that when Nina Ahmad was the deputy mayor of public engagement, she was a part of Kenny's cabinet. She was the only woman of color on Kenny's cabinet at the time. When she left to run for Congress and never came back, unlike Rich Laser, who is, the labor director, who, got the deputy mayor of labor, who got to leave and run for Congress and then get his job back, Nina Ahmad didn't. She just left. So what happened was there was a void that needed to be filled in that position. And instead of them, looking for a black woman or a woman of color that could rise to the occasion of deputy mayor, they made it a director. Once they hired a black woman, they made it.
So let me understand this. They demoted the position.
They demoted the position, hired a black woman who was already in their administration, and then they knocked that position out of the cabinet. So it wasn't in the cabinet anymore.
Right.
That's why it was all these concerns about diversity. Now, all of a sudden, as of last week, there was a new report that came out, a bond report about the city of Philadelphia and water controls or whatever, and I saw her in there listed as director. So they didn't even give her. She makes $118,000 a year. Nina Ahmad made $150,000. Is what we saw. Nina Ahmad made $150,000, as all the deputy mayors mostly do. This woman makes $118,000 a year. So she got a pay bump, and her title got reduced, and she wasn't on cabinet. Now she's listed as one of the members of his cabinet. The only issue is she's one of the few directors where most of the people on there are solicitors, generals, and deputy mayors. She's in there, and she doesn't even have the pay bump that matches the other men in that group, nor is she actually given a title boost.
So she's lowballed too, even though she's in there.
She's lowballed now, she's put in that position now, and I feel like it's interesting because what made the difference between her getting in the cabinet now or later?
Right.
Being tokenized.
It's a token thing.
Or being used.
That's right.
Yeah.
Definitely being used.
So I feel, I just think it's interesting. I put the receipts on social media a week ago, and people, who was this who said something? Ken Leaphart over at Linfest Foundation, he's on the chair. He said, "You're going to get her a pay raise." I said, well, I hope someone should.
And a title raise too, hopefully.
So Ernest, we've been joined in the studio by Maurice Floyd, who's with us. So we're going to chime in a little bit too. But keeping with your statement about the administration, we know clearly that not all of these positions are equal, and that most of the African Americans who are in the administration we can still count on our fingers, and that there are more people.
An American name in 30 seconds.
Yes. And there's a number of people who are in the managing director's office. There are many positions that are there. And we maintain that there are not people in the positions that control things that control people's lives. Anywhere where you see money is being handled, contracts are being handled, all of those things you will not find, for the most part, people of color. It has been inconsistent in that.
Well, Joe, that for early on, there was a push for Janet Walker to be director of the airport.
Tell them who Janet Walker is.
Janet Walker was a VP of a major company that won like a $6 billion contract here to do development in the airport. There was a push among African-American women of color to have Janet Walker put in that position. They then come back and said that they would put her in a position as deputy mayor of transportation, and I forget the other underling thing it was.
In the managing director.
No, that came later. And she would report directly to the mayor. She then gets a call and says, no, it's deputy managing director of transportation with the airport under that authority. And she said that she would not take that position because she was told that she would report directly to the mayor. And you know, Janet Walker's a very talented woman that did not have to take that job, and she moved on.
And she went to run a Cubic, which is a company that she's running half of North America. That was the talent that she brought into the city.
Right, and I think that when you talk about appointments should be appointments with authority, that you are in control of what happens, how it happens, your staff that you build around you, and not just an office where you have to report to underlings and you really are not doing the job. You're really not putting any authority, and you have to wait to hear from people before you make an act or move like that. And I think that's part of what's happening in this administration. You have, they have put deputy mayors now, have given them a lot of direct power, even over cabinet positions.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, even over some cabinet positions. So it's.
I mean, if you look at the, you know, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, you know, one would argue that the white man who's under Nolan Atkinson is really much running that rogue department.
So Nolan has the title, but someone else is running it.
Who's the person that's under him?
Running the real ship. I mean, they put him in meetings, but he doesn't really say much. You know, his reports are basically qualitative, not really, more quantitative more than qualitative, meaning that a lot of the reports that I've seen coming out of the diversity department, you know, these are people that are oftentimes, these reports are lacking numbers, right? It's things like we did a survey asking people about how they feel about this, or, you know, these are some of the things we're working on. These are our visions. They had a report I saw the other day that came out, a diversity report, about his action plan that Kenny was trying to do. And this came out, this was like the one that big one he keeps talking about, how he's doing a report on diversity. Most of the information was just ideas. It wasn't actually hard numbers about the inequity across the city. And yet he helps that by saying, I'm the only mayor who's did a diversity report or whatever. Well, first of all, the reason why you're the only mayor who's ever done that, because your numbers are lackluster compared to how they've been in previous administrations. I mean, there were more black people working in the city with job titles than under Nutter and under Street than they were definitely under Kenny. And I'm like, as a white man who's in this position, I mean, you're going to have to be more accountable to diversity and inclusion. You're going to have to learn it. They didn't have to learn it because they were too busy. They understood what those struggles were, and they tried their hardest to make those numbers match with people. I mean, you could just look at how many white women who he claims he uses that as diversity. He says, we have a lot of women. I'm like, no, you have a lot of white women. You don't have black women.
Right.
You know, you don't have Latino women. You don't have, Muslim women. You have mostly white women. And my whole thing is that if white women is the way in which you measure your diversity in a city like Philadelphia, then that means that that's the ultimate sign that you failed. You don't understand what it looks like. But you have to look at his history. Councilman Jim Kenney did not have that many people of color working his staff. I went and did a background audit at Moore one time. He only had 1 to 2, if that, at the highest. He had a black intern right before he ran for mayor, but he hardly ever had any black people as staff working in his office. So that should have showed people already what kind of leader he was.
Well, it showed actually when he done the transition. If you go look at the transition team that was put together, you could see right from the beginning was the roadmap of how he created his administration. So all you have to do is go back and look at the makeup of the transition team, and right from then it should have told us that what was about to happen. That's all you have to do is just go back and look at that transition
And
team.
we've been talking about that on a regular basis, that we looked at the transition team and the inequity that it showed, and the fact that most of the positions of power ended up in the white women's hands. And those who controlled the money, and that's where the power is, ended up in their hands.
Well,
and
I
we don't have
attended-
any African American
Yeah, I
women
attended
in those
one
powers.
of the black journalists meetings, and I can recall that listening to when they asked him that question, and he says, "I have women," and that they did. It was like a chorus. They said, "Yeah, white women." It just, I'm like,
right,
yeah, absolutely.
It just came out white women. I'm like, oh, okay.
And what did he say?
He didn't say anything.
No. If I were him, I would be embarrassed. I don't know how this mayor goes on and functions like he does, and I don't know how members of the black community continue to support him,
or those
knowing
who
that he does that.
Here's the thing.
Well, let's be clear. I want to say this part to that. What I've learned on my own speaking tour, going and traveling to voters,
yes,
this is going to be interesting next Tuesday. But I will say this: I don't think it is many people. I mean, like I did a poll on Twitter. I have 13,000 followers on Twitter, and I did an anonymous poll and told people if today was May 21st, who would you vote for? And 51% said Anthony Williams, 41% said Kenny, and I believe 8% said Alan Buckovich. So it's interesting because even on social media, I do look into the different groups. And the people that I've seen that seem to really back Kenny, and I think we all think that there is this secret group, but it's really the people who've been able to get a line in their pocket from some of Kenny's projects, contracts, or deals. And it's that talented 10th group amongst Kenny's, of black folks that have been Kenny's favorite people, and the elected officials and their wives and these labor folk that, are pushing Kenny, and, they're like the loudest, but, as they say in Greek, Brutus is like, those who yell the loudest may not necessarily, doesn't make them any more right. And
That's right.
These people are louder on social media, so we think that, Sherelle Parker is super, super loud, right?
Right.
You get people that do this, and you think, oh, that must be how the rest of West Philly feels, or Mount Airy feels, or the Northwest feels. And I'm going down there, and I either get people who say they're absolutely not voting for Kenny because he has not delivered, or you have people that say, they're really conflicted, and they're just really not impressed with him, and they might flip a coin. And what that shows me, too, is that when the black clergy stepped up and they made their endorsement, when you look at some of these other black leaders, like from Power, like Mark Tyler, and all these other people, they're starting to say, you know what? I'm not going to let these ward leaders who are getting a coin, I'm not going to let these elected officials who are getting deals on a table represent my churches, my neighborhoods, my small businesses. We have to come together as a unit and counter the establishment that has been here that are trying to speak on behalf of everybody. Sherelle Parker, I respect Sherelle Parker as an elected official for what she does for her district, but she does not speak up for those people in her district that actually do not care much for Kenny as mayor. And she confuses the fact that if you like Sherelle Parker, that means you support Kenny. That's not true. There's a lot of people who support Sherelle Parker but do not support Kenny. And the fact that she's running her signs in her district with Kenny attached, I just don't understand.
I think one has to be kind of careful, though, about the polling and stuff that's going on now. I think you have to be careful. I've done this for a while now. And there seems to be a movement, an underground movement or something that's going on. And if you look at the last results, and just look across the country at polls where you couldn't tell that these people weren't going to win, and they got crushed.
That's right, in the last election.
Yeah, the last election. So you have to be very, very careful about this polling that's going on out there. And I think one of the things that's important to me as we move around is that when I hear people say, well, he's got this money, and he's got all of this, and they can't win. Well, you know what? You can't talk to me about you don't like someone.
Right.
But the other people can't win. Well, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
That means, are you going to vote for him just because you think they can? It doesn't make any sense. But you got to be careful about pushing polling because it has a way of, in fact, if you go back some years ago, if you remember, when Brazil had ran, he took a poll, he said he was 80% to win. He almost lost. He took another poll days after, and he still was at 80%, but he won, but it was by a narrow point. So you got to be careful about throwing numbers around in reference to who's going to win.
My biggest sign to tell me that this race is not as close as it is. I mean, that poll was in my own friend circle, which typically combines white people, black people in the area. Some are more affluent than others. But what I do say about it is that how I know that these numbers that are coming out are not accurate is because I don't understand why Kenny would need $1 million a week before the election if he has it in the bag. Why would you get $1 million from Bloomberg if you thought that if you are an incumbent mayor which has history, quote unquote, on your side? Why would you get $1 million added in your race when you already have $600,000? That shows me that I think that he's scared.
Well, you got to understand Bloomberg too. Bloomberg is the kind of guy who always was against the soda industry, the beverage industry.
Yes.
So he would want to come in and put $1 million out there just to say, see, I helped. I came in and I helped. I've always been a strong and let's be honest. What is $1 million to Bloomberg?
Absolutely. He's so rich it don't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, but I also draw that kind of conclusion too, and I know that there is another expenditure that was about $250,000 that was also added to the race as well.
So, Ernest, I want you to hold on. We're going to go to break. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership, and we will be right back.
Reality Check. Reality Check. Hosted by Charles Ellison. Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com.
Independence is a precious thing, but now and then everyone needs a little help. Isn't it good to know that getting the help you need doesn't mean drastically changing your life? Always Best Care Philly in Delaware is there to give you just the amount of help you need, from a few hours a week to as many hours as you need, handling everything from light housekeeping to meals, and so much more. Don't struggle. Contact Always Best Care and see how easy it is to age in place. Call us at 302-409-3710 or visit alwaysbestcaredelaware.com.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
Using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
You'd think that making $1 billion profit would be enough, but 3 big out-of-state nuclear corporations want even more. They're demanding a handout at $500 million every year, paid for by hardworking Pennsylvanians like you. They call it fair compensation, but it's really just another corporate cash grab. You shouldn't pay more for your electricity to pad the profits of nuclear executives and shareholders. Text bailout to 52886 to tell legislators no nuke bailout. Paid for by Citizens Against Nuclear Bailouts.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word. No, not the station, but the word. J-O-B, that is. And our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious breads in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they're hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days of employment. Call Scott Drummond at 856-754-0360 or visit amorosos.com for details.
The soulful sounds of legendary songstress Nina Simone will come to life on Sunday, May 19th, as Germantown Arts presents Singing Nina, an inspiring cultural festival and conference. This special musical tribute will feature a day-long celebration of Nina Simone's life and work, including a screening of What Happened Miss Simone, a panel discussion of Miss Simone's life and work, a VIP reception with music by Umbalia Singli, a garden party with DJ Rich Medina, and musical tribute titled Dear Nina, a sonic love letter by Drea Deneur, and strings by Rootstock Republic. You don't want to miss this extraordinary tribute to the legendary singer, songwriter, arranger, civil rights activist, and high priestess of soul, Nina Simone. Get your tickets today. Visit GermantownArts.com or call 215-839-6732.
Word Radio congratulates President and CEO Sarah Lomax Reese on being the recipient of the Pass the Power Entrepreneur of Today and Tomorrow Award, presented by the Women of Tomorrow. Sarah and others will be acknowledged on Wednesday, May 15th during a special event at Ridgeland Mansion, 4100 Shimoni Drive, from 6 till 9 p.m. The event will feature music by jazz singer Imani, wine tasting by Moore Brothers Wine, delectable desserts, special beverages, and more. All proceeds will benefit the Greater Philadelphia program. Join the celebration and get your tickets today. For more information, visit passthepowerevent.org.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Drive in
with Solomon Jones.
Drive home
with Charles Ellison.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Philadelphia, independent black media.
Oh, yeah. It's the big stuff. Who do you think you are? Mr. Big Stuff. You're never gonna get my love. Now because you wear all those fancy clothes. Oh, yeah. And have a big fine car. Oh, yes you do now. Do you think I can afford to give you my love? Oh, you think you're higher than every star above, Mr. Big Stuff? Who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? You're never gonna get my love. Now I know all the girls I've seen you with. I know you broke their hearts one after another now, bit by bit. You made them cry. Many poor girls cry. When they tried to keep you happy, they just tried to keep you satisfied. Mr. Big Stuff, tell me, who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? You're never gonna get my love. I'd rather give my love to a broke guy that has a love that's true. Oh, yeah. Than to be fooled around and get hurt by you. 'Cause when I give my love, I want love in return. Oh, yeah. Now I know this is a lesson, Mr. Big Stuff, you haven't learned. Mr. Big Stuff, tell me, who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? You're never gonna get my love, Mr. Big Stuff. You're never gonna break my heart, Mr. Big Stuff. You're never gonna make me cry, Mr. Big Stuff. Tell me, just who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff?
We're back. WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source, Black Women's Leadership. We have Ernest Owens on the phone. I'm here with Emma Chappelle and Maurice Floyd. And before we get right back to Ernest, Maurice, you said that you went to see a show last night with Freddie Jackson and walked out.
Yeah, I did.
Tell us about it. So warn us.
Wow.
Oh, I mean, look, I like Freddie Jackson.
And you drove in the rain to Atlantic City to see him?
No, I didn't drive in the rain. I drove down to Abington to see him.
Oh, Abington.
And I'm not going to throw him under the bus like that, but nah, I'm done.
You done. Not a Freddie Jackson fan anymore.
No, not now.
You should have gone to the opera with Marsha.
No way, I'm going to that neither. That's a drop off. You got it. I'll happy to pick you
Should
up.
have gone to the opera with Marsha.
No, I don't think so.
So, Ernest, where did we leave you off at?
Well, we were just talking about polls and popularity, and this money that's been involved in a race that has people, being, whether, deciding that is it a, precursor that Kenny's scared? Is people out here just being quiet about who they're going to vote for? What's going to happen on May 21st?
One of the things that you sort of know people's playbooks as they play them. So the black clergy came out, made some endorsements, and then 2 days later or a day later, there were 5 ministers who came out and endorsed Mayor Kenny. And
today, you talking about this time around?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, that's so messy.
Mm-hmm. Bishop Morris.
Sorry.
And who were the others?
Pastor Felton, Reverend Moore, James Moore, and Reverend James Hall.
And we're missing someone. It was 5.
Bishop Ernest Morris, you got. That was
right.
5.
Reverend J. Brodnett.
No.
No.
No. There were a separate clergy group that came out.
It's
5
Moore,
members.
It's Moore, Hall, Felton.
James Moore Sr., not to be confused with Reverend Moore, James Moore.
Right. Yeah, I was only 4 in the picture, but there was a 5th one, yes.
Right.
Oh, Johnson.
Yes, Kevin Johnson.
Kevin Johnson.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. Kevin Johnson said he's the one that got them. He got them to support the mayor. So it's Reverend Kevin Johnson, Reverend James Moore Sr., Reverend James Hall Sr., and Bishop Ernest Morris, and Pastor Felton.
And that's just ridiculous because, you know, with all due respect, I mean, I just think that it's interesting that these ministers, you know, with the work that they do, and I don't criticize their work that they do, but I just think it's interesting that, you know, they will put this much energy to break away from the black clergy's endorsement. And then we know that, of course, Kevin Johnson, you know, who ran for Congress and failed to actually win last year, is now, you know, getting behind the lead on this. And it's hard to really take him seriously about it because you just don't know what he has up his sleeve. I mean, he jumps from church to church from across the country, and now he's, you know, getting in the middle of this race, and it's hard to believe that this is only coming sincerely from his heart and there's not any other motives at bay because he's already put his hand in the political pot. And I'm just really concerned that there could be some quid pro quo with whatever the result is of him getting involved. He showed his hand when he started making these huge public appearances, and the next thing you know, he's run for Congress. And then he kind of, you know, had that big church just built. And then when all of that, you know, Congress passed, he's been laying low, and now he's emerging to help get Kenny some clergy support that goes against the endorsement of black clergy. Interesting. That's all I'm going to say. Interesting.
Well, look, let's take a look at endorsements, period. Endorsements are a recommendation, and people, as a community, have to do their own, look at these candidates and do their own research and their own opinions. I mean, there's some on the other side. I didn't, you know, with council, I didn't sort of like the picks from of council. I kind of had a real problem with leaving some of these council members out that really deserve some to be reelected and some to be supported.
They're green.
They're green. Exactly. And I did express that to some of the members that I was really shocked about not supporting Derek Green. I thought Derek Green did an excellent job, but just like I said, you know, people got to do their own investigation and do their own research and look at these people's record. I mean, look, a lot of times, one of the things that's really frustrating to me is that we've seen to join or look at, we need to change. You know, all change ain't good. All change ain't good. I mean, just look at what look what happened in the White House. All change is not good, and I think that we need to really look hard at these candidates, see what their records were, what they previously done, you know, and how they're going to benefit the community.
So while we have our both pundits, one in the studio with us and one on the line, let's move to John Street's lawsuit. I have to tell you that I'm in 100% agreement with it, and I know that Emma would. We have been talking about gentrification and this tax issue that is driving our community to lose their homes in neighborhoods that they have lived in all of their lives. And I want to get your take, Ernest, on the lawsuit.
I think the lawsuit is definitely a great conversation starter. Would have liked it to come out a little bit before, not so close to the election, so that there could be people that will understand the sincerity of it and the merit of it. I think that what I'm concerned about is not so much about the lawsuit itself. I think that there's some big claims. I think that guy said 61% hike. I almost passed out. But I think what I hope is that, I mean, they released the press release on a Friday. I'm just like, come on. Like, you put it on a Friday. Like, why not Thursday? Like, I just wish the communications around it was a little better. But I do think that it holds weight, and it is a great conversation that needs to be had. I really hope that people, you know, journalists, community people really keep the conversation on that, because a lot went down on Friday. Do y'all understand? Like, there was a shooting in Mount Airy on SEPTA. You know, Desiree Peterkin Bell, was, pled guilty to some of the money. You had,
we had 5 people shot. Didn't we have 5 young men shot?
5 people shot?
Yes.
Yes, it was the first time that Kenny...
First time Kenny ever came out to anything.
That's right.
Cared about anybody getting shot.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. All this political convenience.
Yes.
And it just seems like a lot of good people, like John Street, and a lot of the things that do hold weight and merit is getting sublimed in all of this campaign stuff. And so I just really want the community, and I'm happy we're talking about on the show, people that are listening, to keep having this conversation about that lawsuit, because to me it has implications that will go past May 21st, and it's going to be something that needs to be talked about. And I think people really need to think about that when they go to the...
I spoke to, and I guess you won't mind me saying this, Madeline Dunn over the weekend. And she told me that her property tax went from $900 to $27 or 20-something, $2,600 or something like that. And she's a senior citizen in her 80s. And we can't sustain that.
I remember we had this conversation some time ago and about AVI. I remember when Alan Bukovitz went and said, this is going to be a disaster, and we need to stop it, study it, and before you pull the trigger. There were a number of people who were saying that this will make the real estate value, this will make the evaluation fair. He went out and hired to his office a leading guy in real estate, property and taxes. And he came back and said, this is a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. Against all odds, including print media, said that we need to move this thing forward. Now you see where we are. We are in a place where every year real estate taxes are going up. They're going, and here's what's remarkable. You would think that the people in Rittenhouse Square, who are pretty well off, some of them, they're now being affected by that. They can't afford what's hitting them with these higher taxes.
These taxes have gotten out of control.
They've gotten to a point now that they're just out of control.
Out of control.
And
the water bill?
Well, we can go back to that too. There was, if you can recall, there was. They had put in a bill for, oh God, what's it called? In fact, another administration where now there were people who had water bills that were $400 a month, went to $4,000 a month.
And these businesses are individuals?
These were businesses. Mm-hmm. And what it did was it pit the people who had land, like warehouses, car dealerships, it pit them against the folks who had high rises. So there were winners and losers of that. And what happened was it resulted in a thing where they took it to council and said, this is not fair. In fact, they had at that time, the water department commissioner could outrule even the advocate who would say, well, you know what, you shouldn't really raise it. They would do it anyway. So what happened was, council put a referendum on the ballot, and it changed it to now they have a board which will vote on those types of raises and stuff to the War Department. So
I think that's very important, because one of the things that I keep talking about is transparency. Things are happening in this city, like you just explained, and nobody know about it. It just happens. And nobody talks about it, brings it before council, people vote on it. And I want to know, how is that happening? Because it should not be happening, according to the charter. And so I'm glad if City Council has found that and is beginning to do something about those kinds of things.
Yeah, Darrell Clark, President Clark, was the one that sponsored the referendum to go on the ballot, and it won over majority. It won. And in fact, here was the crazy part about it, though. There were some people in the press that said, well, one person, it's fine. They didn't see anything wrong with that. And it was like, but the people in the city spoke, and it won overwhelmingly. So we got to be careful.
But part of that is because we don't educate our people on the ballot question. And that's why we started our show talking about ballot questions. Because people go in and vote for the mayor, for city council, etc., and then they get in the poll and see, I've got questions to answer. And they answer them just without even thinking about it. You see what I'm saying?
You know what? I think one thing that when I'm looking at candidates around the city, especially like let's talk about the commissioner's office just for 1 second. One of the things that they need to do is allocate money so that they could advertise.
Absolutely.
The election, advertise about what the ballot questions are.
Exactly.
A lot of people think that the commissioner's office is the one that really promotes the elections, where actually it's the candidates themselves who are promoted through their advertisements on radio or television. And that gets expensive, and depending on the race, depends on the turnout. But they need to have some resources where they can actually inform the public on a referendum question to say, this is on the ballot, and express the importance of that. You vote yes or no, or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, I think that's one of the things that, if you are commissioners and you listen, I think that's one of the things you need to promote, that you need money in the budget to do television commercials, and not public service announcements, actually paid commercials to push voter. If you want to voter participation, then you got to push it through a way, and the best way to do it now is through social media and television and radio.
And to educate the people on what they're voting on.
Correct.
Because a lot of times we end up with things, I don't think people really understood how deep that soda tax was. I don't think they really understood it.
No, they didn't.
And how it affected their lives.
No, they didn't. And I think one of the other things I think that's really important is that the way it was presented said one thing.
Absolutely.
The way it is used says another.
It was bait and switch.
Right.
Plain old bait and switch.
Well, we clearly understand that it was bait and switch, and I'll own my statement that this was full employment for the building and trades, and it was nothing more than that. And that's my feeling yesterday, that's my feeling today, and that will be my feeling tomorrow. If we were really interested in our children, we would have had a wider program that dealt with pre-K. We would have talked about the proceeds being directed towards obesity prevention programs. We would have put home economics back into the school districts. If we really cared about the people, there were so many ways to address it. Again, when people sit at a table and devise programs, and you have people sitting there that don't look like you and me,
no representation,
with no representation, they will come up with all kinds of schemes, and then they will come back and find a group of people that they can sell it to, who will buy it and won't care anything else about it.
Also, too, let's just also put this out there: 74%, or really 75% of the money raised during the soda tax has not gone to pre-K, parks and recs, or community schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to the general fund.
Absolutely. To pay pensions, to pay city pensions, and what else?
Pretty much.
Yes.
Pretty much. And interesting enough, people keep thinking, oh, that was because of it was tied up in courts. Well, the PA Supreme Court decision and ruling was over a year ago, and that money has still not moved. That percentage number has not moved. They have not. Most of the bulk of the money, overwhelming a lot of the money, is still in the general fund, and it's going to be there. All of the money, the majority, over 50% of the soda tax money will actually not go to pre-K, parks, recs, and schools or community schools. So when people call it a soda tax for pre-K and schools, I'm like, that's intellectually dishonest. And I've told people this. I said, anytime the bill or the tax that you're using is not going to the majority of the things that you're saying that it's for, then you can't claim it to be for that. You know, that's almost like me, saying, oh, PABJ, money is for scholarships. About a quarter of our money go to scholarships, and then the 75% go to operational events and planning and everything else. But what if I just said we're an organization that the money from our organization go to scholarships? That's intellectually dishonest, recognizing that the majority of the money go elsewhere. So that's why I just came to get behind the soda tax, because even if you were in favor of a regressive tax like that to go to pre-K and schools, how can you even be a fan of it knowing that most of the money isn't even going to that? So it's just nothing. I mean, I don't even see how people can be proponents of it when every time I tell them that, they're like, wow. Like I said, it's not even actually going to what you're advocating for. They're like, do it for the kids. What, 25% for the kids? 25% of the soda tax is going to the kids. And then 75% is going back into the city fund so they can act like they have a rainy day fund when there's so much poverty in the city.
And when we looked at it, even when they talked about the pre-K, the kids who are in the poverty areas are not the areas that are getting the money, because they don't have those gold stars, which created another problem.
Yeah, they don't have the Keystone
They don't have the Keystone stars, right. They don't have them, so they don't qualify. So like Joanne said, if you don't have your feet at the table and not helping to make some of these decisions that impact our lives, then we're not going to benefit from it.
So let me ask both. We need to also remind people, I want to say this part real quick. We got to remind people that this is, Kenny needs to stop exploiting young, poor black kids. He says, oh, this is going to poor neighborhoods. No, it's not. It's going to all neighborhoods. This soda tax and this pre-K is for everybody, including rich kids.
That's right.
Okay, rich folks' kids also benefit off of this. So the lie that he continues to act like it's only helping lower income communities, as if this soda tax is a charity benefit, it's not. The reason why a lot of those rich folks support the soda tax is because they knew that poor people, the backs of poor people, would fund programs for their kids and their safer neighborhood.
That's true. And they don't have to pay for their kids to go, even though they have the money.
Mm-hmm. Someone sent me something about going back to the AVI and the assessments. It said that in the 50th ward, and we need to check this out, it says there were only 40 homes that got increased assessments, while in the 3rd ward, 3,915 homes got increased in assessments. What do you think about that?
Wow.
That's awful. Where's the 3rd ward, I wonder?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Let me repeat that. I'm told that in the 50th ward, only 40 homes got the increased assessments, but in the 3rd ward, 3,915 homes got increased assessments.
Well, are you surprised? Well, let's talk about who's over the 50th ward, and where is the 50th ward located, and where is the 3rd ward located?
Right, that's right.
And
that's the key.
Running it. That's the question.
So, are these assessments political? Are these assessments political?
They've been political, which is why she continues the campaign for him, because Kenny is doing wonders for the Northwest and for her wards and for her area, Cheryl Parker's. Here's the thing. I don't blame Cheryl Parker for being a champion for someone who is being good to her and her area. But
Neither do I.
Looking at the mayor, I tell people, this mayor is not a mayor of 1 ward or 3 wards or 4 wards. He's the mayor of all the wards in all of the city. And if he cannot be,
he's supposed to be
he's supposed to be, which means that if he is only doing good deeds for only a small few of his supporters, his cheerleaders, then the rest of us suffer because of that. And I think she needs to be sincere about recognizing that she can't go into West Philly telling West Philadelphians about how great Kenny is when he ain't doing the same thing he's doing in the Northwest that he's doing for the same thing he's doing in for North Philly that he's not doing for West Philly. She can't come over here and tell that lie. She can't go to South Philly or Point Breeze or other parts of the city and tell that. That's why she stays in the ads and she stays in her district, because she can't spread the gospel of Kenny in these other areas. They would laugh at her. It would be hypocrisy. She wouldn't even allow her districts to look the way that Janie Blackwell's district looks currently. She wouldn't allow that in her area. And so for her to have the audacity to try to tell this out in the public about Kenny without recognizing her own privilege and the privilege of her district is to me disappointing. That's the biggest disappointment, is that I would just rather her say, look, Kenny's been good to my people, so that's why I'm supporting him. Well, good for you. He's not been good to my people over here in West Philly, nor parts of North Philly, nor South Philly. And that's why we're not a fan of him.
So, Maurice, what do you think about that disparity?
Well, I mean, look, we've all known for some time that the assessments have always been way, way off. In fact, it's my understanding that they're reshuffling that whole department over there. That indicates to me that something is very wrong with it. You know, I would have to know more about it, but that definitely, it's uncomfortable for me to see something, those numbers like that, and want to not know, like, well, what happened here, and why is it so much here and not over there in that area. That's remarkable.
So we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source, Black Women's Leadership, and we'll be right back.
What up, Philly? It's Solomon Jones, host of Wake Up with Word, and we are back, and we still black, doing what we do on WURD 900 AM and 96.1 FM, Black Talk Media.
I'm back by popular demand.
Need help with your Social Security, veteran benefits, or Medicare? Congressman Brendan Boyle is hosting a Senior and Community Expo Saturday, May 18th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Esperanza Academy Charter School on the 300 block of West Hunting Park Avenue. There'll be free health screenings, more than 100 local vendors, and a free light lunch. To RSVP, just call the Congressman's district office or go online at boyle.house.gov. This advertisement was paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM. WURD.
Are you stressed from work and daily life? Are you lacking the confidence to become the person you want to be? Do you want to take your healthy lifestyle to the next level? If so, let's work together. Hello, I'm Halana, your resident self-care strategist. 14 years ago, I started my very own wellness journey, and since then have been able to help hundreds of people to regain control of their lives through yoga, meditation, and plant-based eating. If you want lasting lifestyle changes and to build healthy habits that will grow with you, text me your email address right now. I know you have your phone in your hand at 267-281-3890. Again, that's 267-281-3890. Text me your email address to receive your very own self-care guide.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
That's just what they want you to think.
Butch, that you?
Nervous? Sure, I'm nervous. And you should be too. What do you mean?
There's a rose in black and Spanish Harlem. A rose in black and Spanish Harlem. It is a special one. It never sees the
We're back. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership. And we're going to return just a little bit with and end with Ernest, because we're going to go into another segment about today being May 13th, the anniversary of MOVE. So, Ernest, wrap it up for us. Thank you.
Yeah, so I would say that, it is the 34th anniversary of MOVE, and, this was also, within this time frame or even the following election where Wilson Goode was basically, in a contested race against Ed Rendell. We haven't seen a contested race for mayor in 30 years. And now we're seeing the most contested race since with Kenny. And I think people just have to really get honest. And people that don't live in the 5th Ward, this is not for the 5th Ward, the 50th Ward, this is not for the 50th Ward. For everybody else that does not live in the 50th Ward or in Center City, I want to ask those people, especially black and brown people, are you better off 4 years ago than you are today? If you feel like this city is going in a good direction, if you feel safer, if you feel that you have seen so much economic development and growth for yourself and people that look like you, vote for Kenny. But if you really do not feel safe and you really do not feel as though your voice is being heard and you really do not like the crime and the poverty that continue to skyrocket in this city and maintain the status quo for the have and have-nots, then make a different vote on May 21st. And don't buy into the negative defeatist mentality of some people, because people power, voters make the difference. No one else can. You have to vote. If you decide not to vote, you're giving the power to the victor, which is somebody who you may not want elected. So you have a choice, and don't buy into the polls, the money game, all of that, okay? Remember, Alan Bukovitz went against a challenger and got defeated by someone who didn't get the party's backing. It can happen again. It's been happening. So, make that change, and I would just say vote. Just seriously go out to these polls. It's a serious election.
That's right. Election day is May 21.
Thank you. We'll be talking to you very soon. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Ernest.
So we're going to return back into the studio where we have Maurice Floyd, and Joey just jumped in here with us. And Emma, you think we're going to take these? Do we still have somebody on line 1 and 2? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's go take these 2 calls. Line 1, Maurice.
Yes, as usual.
Thank you, Maurice, for holding on.
Yes. That's okay. Day late, the dollar short. This discussion should have happened in January about all these same things. People that come on your show can't even get the beverage tax, which it is, not a soda tax, not a sugar tax. They can't even get that straight. But as far as these ballot questions, that's why Green should go. That's a ballot question. We got 1 million more problems instead of what we call the council people that's going on in this city. And he had the nerve to come on there and talk about that's what he proposed for a ballot question. We got people that can't get jobs, people that go to bad schools. You see the money's being wasted, but people come on this show and come on and get treated like celebrities. I don't understand it, because I'm with you 100% on everything that you do. The mayor has not showed up for one black event when we put him up there for see what he's going to do with the city, because he doesn't need us to win. He already has his voters, Northeast, University City, and downtown. He don't need us, because the last election for mayor was only 26%. We're not even looking about who actually comes out and vote. The people that come out and vote is all the districts he's been taking care of. See, we got to stop playing checkers and stop playing some chess here. These people, they can't get away with this stuff if city council wasn't down with what the mayor is doing. Because I watch city council or listen to it every Thursday, and they don't fight for us at all. They bring up ridiculous nonsense stuff, or Michelle Parker likes to get up and scream about nothing all the time, but she ain't helping nobody. So what are we going to do as black people? We got to find us an independent, preferably a woman, to run for mayor and put her in office to show this man, if you absent-minded with black people, we're absent-minded at the vote group.
The problem now is, though, that we're 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
We don't have. Let me just finish, Maurice. Let me just finish. Let me just finish. The real deal here is that we are some days away from a primary election. Secondly, I'm going to disagree with you on some of the council people. Some of the council people are fighting for us. And I agree with you on that at some point we have gotten into this thing of all these social issues we are starting to push, and not the meat and potato issues such as jobs and real solid education
and business
and healthcare
and
business contacts. I agree with you on those facts. But we're looking at an election coming down the pipe next week.
8 days.
8 days from now. And I think the concentration should be on this. If you really want to show that we got power, don't elect this mayor.
Exactly.
That thing will shift in a heartbeat, that everyone will listen at when it comes time to run for whatever office it is that they have to listen to this community. That's.
Thank you. Thank you, Maurice. We're going to go to line 2, Angel.
Yes, I am saying good day to the whole panel. I am Angel Lady Love, listener, inspirer, friend, emissary. Most emphatically, I just heard the young man say our employees need to fight for us. No, they need to follow the law. All the things that they're doing, and this Darryl Clark comes on Saturday. I'm grateful for WRD, but he is obnoxious. But this other gentleman, Mr. Green, if our employees don't know what gender they are, and they need to be gender specific, something's not right there. Because in the word, I even hear mankind, womankind, I hear the word man. In woman, woman, and man, I hear the word man. See, this will have to change a lot of their documents. Many of them have been in office too long. And again, they're not supposed to fight for us. They're supposed to follow the law. Right now, they have bragged about how they have put back onto our primary questions when the primary, according to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania law, I looked into it before, I don't have the number right now, but more emphatically, it clearly says no questions are supposed to be in our primary elections.
What law was that?
Independent. One is, pardon?
You saw that's a law?
Oh, ma'am, I did my homework. I do my homework. And I even called the United States government or other governmental personnel. We have to remember we're the government. Please read the Declaration of Independence. They use my tenant.
I have to step in here as a former city commissioner and tell you that I appreciate your concern, but that's not true.
Excuse me, let me finish. I waited on this phone, and you do not tell me it's not true.
Well, we're not going to be disrespectful here, so you're going to have to call back. Cut the call. All righty, so we're going to talk about Move. And Joey's joined us. And so let me tell you who's in the studio again for those who are not watching live streaming. It's Joanne Bell, Emma Chappelle, Joey Temple, Maurice Floyd. And we want to turn our attention to the anniversary of Move. And a lot of us can tell you exactly where we were, what we were doing, and how we felt about it. And so I want to go around. I want to start with Maurice and move around, and I'll finish.
I could tell you exactly where I was. I was at the Uptown Theater where John Street was making a presentation on how to fix every abandoned house in the city of Philadelphia. I was there. And he was talking about floating these bonds to fix up every house in Philadelphia. And I remember when our phones started ringing and they were talking about, well, not cell phones at the time, nobody, but they got a call, and John said that something's going on in West Philadelphia, and he had to leave.
Oh, my.
And we broke the meeting up, and we were advised that we should watch the television station, and that's what we did. I remember going home, sitting with my mother, watching what was going on in New Blackwell. In fact, Lou Blackwell was out there, and he had to rush to go over there, and they were at some kind of command post watching this thing happen.
All right, Joey.
What happened, Reese? First of all, belated Happy Mother's Day to both of y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May 13th lives in my heart for a long time. Basically because of my family members. One was the assistant fire commissioner at the time, Donald Patton, and the other one was Charlie Patton, who was involved in the first move confrontation. And where was I? I was 6 o'clock in the morning. I was doing what Kelly was doing at WDS, working the board for Georgie Wood. And we got a phone call from Barbara and Shimo, and you could hear the gunfire going on.
Which Barbara?
Barbara Grant. And Shimo, Chairman Henry, all of them was out there covering. And then at a certain time in the day, George and I decided to go to 19th in the Parkway for a fundraiser for Randy Promise. Every politician was in that joint except for 3. One that he mentioned, Lucian, Hardy Williams, and they said that they was at the mayor's house with the mayor. At 10 o'clock, and at the table, Scotty Hamilton was telling us at 10 o'clock in the morning what created all this. It was the mayor from Chester, Mayor Battle, whatever his name was, invaded Mo Africa's house at 10 o'clock and then ceased all the negotiations, moved, didn't want to deal with nothing else. And then we was coming down the stairway, and George was going to the racetrack, and he called Stan Watson. Stan Watson said, wherever you at, get on TV and watch. They just dropped a device on Move. And George went upstairs and told all elected officials and all them, turn on the TV. That's how they found out what was going on. And then the next day, be disrespectful to the black preachers. Georgie said, let's go out to the site. We went out to the site, and what's that old man, bald head dude named Reverend Bishop Eiffel? They was up there saying all these prayers condemning Move. And George said, I had enough, let's get the hell away from these hypocrites. And we came back, and we just went back and came home. But, I realized what's going on, like I told Solomon this morning, is because one thing happened, Wilson never had control of his security.
We're gonna come around again, but okay. I just want to get everybody to where they are. Before I let Emma tell about where she was at that particular day, we're going to go to break. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source, Black Women's Leadership, and we'll be right back.
Listen to Word Radio on the go with the Word Radio app. Search for WURD in your favorite app store today and take us with you wherever you go. Stay connected to Word Radio, independent Black media.
What's cheesy, topped with a fluffy egg and crisp applewood smoked bacon? Easy. McDonald's new $2 breakfast deal. For a limited time, get a flaky bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit for just $2. And if you're craving something savory and sweet, get a delicious bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddles for the same price. Hurry in and bite into this tasty deal any day of the week. Only at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal for a limited time only.
Support independent Black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875
or visit wordradio.com.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Hey, what's up now? Brother, what's up? This is a big party, man. Yeah, I can dig it. Solid. Right on.
Mother, there's too many of you crying.
There's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Oh, picket lines and picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see what's going on. What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Oh, what's going on? Right on.
We're back. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership. And we're in the studio with Joanne Bell, Emma Chappelle, and Joey Temple, and we're talking about MOVE. And when we went into commercial, we were waiting to hear where Emma Chappelle was that day in her remembrances.
Well, I actually was in Washington, D.C. At the time, I was working with Jesse Jackson, who was running for President of the United States. And when we heard about the bombing of the MOVE houses, we, of course, everybody turned the TV on in the office, and we started watching, and we were in shock. We just could not believe that that had happened in a city the size of Philadelphia, that someone had the nerve to drop a bomb on a residential community. And so we were all up in arms and worried about the rest of the people in the community.
Oh. So for some of you, you knew that I worked for, was elected as the Vice President of District Council 47. So in 1985, May 13th, I was the Vice President of District Council 47 and was negotiating different things with the mayor at the time. And I was scheduled to have a meeting with him the afternoon of May 13th. And so when I woke up that morning and got to work, I understood that there was a shootout on Osage Avenue. So I called Shirley Hamilton and said, I guess my meeting scheduled for 3 p.m. today with the mayor is canceled. She said, no, he wants to see you. So 2:30, I took off and walked over to the office, and when I got there, he was not sitting in the mayor's office proper, but there's a side room that they had, and he was sitting there having soup. And so I came for my normal union fight, but when he looked up at me, I could see the distress in his face. And so I decided to forego the conversation that we were going to have just to talk about MOVE. And I don't know exactly what we talked about, but I can tell you that he had some apparatus in the room which was a connection to the site. And halfway through our conversation, Charlie Boo Barris came in. And he had been out at the site, and he was sent out there by the mayor, and I think to gauge the temperature of the community. And he was coming back to bring him these missives from the community. So once Charlie got there and we talked a few minutes, I excused myself and I left. And it's about maybe a 10 to 15 minute walk back to my office at the time, which was at 1606 Walnut Street. And when I got back, there's security on the first floor, you know, that we had working for us. And the security officer said to me, they dropped the bomb on Osage Avenue. So I thought he was joking because it couldn't possibly be true. I was just with the mayor. It only took me 15 minutes to walk back to the office. So I go upstairs and I turn on the television, and there's the fire. And, you know, I was absolutely devastated because I could not believe that. And as we go around, I'll talk a little bit more about it. So, Joey, you wanted to share some other things.
Yeah, you know, see, point that's sad about it is mayor never had control of the security force. The security force is all pro-Israelites. and their mission was to destroy MOVE and destroy him. You know, I hear all these people always taking a shot. I heard somebody this morning call it a block captain had the nerve to take a shot at Curtis Jones, Janie, and Darryl about some rehab and all that stuff. But the block captain was one of the main residents that went to Mayor Good to complain.
Yes.
See, people forget. They think Negroes in this town stupid. Because it was a couple of us that was around that time. And if you notice, the #1 talk show was Mary Mason. And Mary Mason even had the mayor on and asked him, like, I'm getting ready to go to Florida. So whatever you got going, you know, the mayor promised him. But what the mayor didn't realize, there was a meaning to destroy his image, his character.
You mean Mayor Good?
Mayor Good, right? And had he went out there, we would have had more people incarcerated now for killing the mayor. Well, just like they got 9 members for MOVE incarcerated now for killing Rand. They didn't kill Rand. Rand was killed by his own vicious security force. You know, and he was made an example to get rid of the foundation of what MOVE was all about. Now, sure, MOVE Mason had some language and they said some stuff, but we say it every day. But that don't give you the damn advice to go and drop a device on a whole community. And since I heard certain people in here talking about the election next week, all right, study this, Joanne. After May 13th, 1985, study the way black folks have come out to vote. Before then, we was coming out to vote good. You remember when Wilson ran, we was in line to put on place after 8 o'clock to make sure that happened. But they made sure they said we did it under one of your own watch, you know. And that's a symbol. I'll be telling people they didn't just drop it bomb and they killed 11 people. They killed the mind of all our community. And it's sad because Sambor, who was a Rizzo-like, when Richmond wanted to put the fire out, he said, no, don't you touch it.
Yeah, they let it burn.
Don't you touch it. And General Brooks, only reason when they had a commissioner situation there, they got Wilson off the hook. They had that little walkie-talkie. Wilson's line wasn't a part of the walkie-talkie. It was Brooks and Sanborn. How I know, like my uncle was Charlie Patton, and he was part of the MOVE Commission. But I know for a fact doing that taping, they made a remark. You will not disrespect our commander-in-chief no more. We had intention to kill all of y'all, including the mayor. And that was done by a white sniper that was right across the street from the house. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, you know, it's personal with me. Because, you know, MOVE, like, I hear these people talking about what the houses on Osage Avenue. There were houses on Osage Avenue was never going to be right until they gave Louise James a house back. You know, I guess the block captain didn't want to talk about that because, you know, they know the deal. You know, see, I get lucky we on this microphone because I would have said some things that we should have just messed
Well, we're glad that you
know what I'm saying?
wouldn't.
But the reality part is I get tired of people just thinking, well, you know, this day we ain't do this and he ain't do that. First of all, where did the helicopter come from? The helicopter was a state helicopter. Who was the governor at the time? Dick Thornburg. All right? Them two cops that was on the helicopter, they both paid the price.
It was my understanding, and we're going to go to Emma, that in reading the MOVE report, the commission report, and listening to the commission, that what they told the mayor was that they wanted permission to use an entry device. Yes. And that they said that entry device that they wanted to use was down at the lower level in order for the police to be able to enter in from each house on either side. And what they needed to do was the entry device, I think, was supposed to blow a hole to allow them to come through. That's an entirely different understanding than using an entry device delivered by a helicopter on top of the roof to knock a bunker. Was very, very different. The problem that I had with Mayor Good at the time was that the person that I saw that afternoon before that bomb was dropped was a very deliberative person who was in pain because of the shootout, and not someone who was championing an action. the person later on that evening that I saw, and let me just go back to part 2, I was so devastated by the fire that my sister and I, she was working with me doing something at the union, and so we decided we were going to go home. So we get in my car, and as we're driving, and she lived in South Philly, we could hear people screaming at their televisions talking about put the fire out.
Yes.
Put the fire out.
They begged them to put the
There
fire
were
out.
people, we're driving down the street, and we can hear people yelling, put the fire out. And so I went home, and the late Gussie Clark was in Maryland visiting her sister. And she jumped in her car and was driving back and asked me to meet her at City Hall. So I come back that evening and to meet her in her office, and we go down to see the mayor. And I remember this because it was a very different mayor than the one that I had saw earlier that day. The mayor that I saw was being surrounded by national press, because by that time, national press was in. There was the press corps was all out in the hallway, and the mayor was accepting responsibility. It was almost like, yes, I did it, and I would do it again. And I was totally shocked, because I said, that's not who I saw. Why do you think you have to protect the people who obviously didn't think that they had to protect you?
Because he was a sharecropper from wherever he came from. And I remember that statement too, because every morning he would come out the AS and Georgie would be playing a message to the black grassroots from Malcolm, Massachusetts grassroots, or the Battle of the Bullet. And by any means necessary was everything he heard every morning. He'd come in there, Malcolm would say, by any means necessary. And to police your white oppressors or whoever you did it, he had to act like he was man in charge when he wasn't really the man in charge. You know what I'm saying? He sent a military person out there to oversee this whole operation.
Bro.
He sent a racist, racist commander in chief out there to oversee the election, to oversee the movement. And Ramona will tell you that those cops that came in the alley, they were part of they shouldn't have even been there. They were part of the what's the name? The first confrontation. They were not even supposed to be there.
Let me say this again with my remembering this MOVE report. Brooks was not there in the planning. He had a son or daughter, I don't know whichever, was graduating from a school in Virginia. So he was away that weekend.
Oh, was it?
And so he didn't arrive on the scene until the actual day of a Monday, of the day of the shootout. The person who I understood from the report that planned it was Sambor, who was the police commissioner. Now, I always was troubled by him because he used to walk around in full uniform with the epaulets and stuff, and I never thought in the vernacular of the kids that he was wrapped too tight. We're going to go to break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership, and we'll be right back.
The Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts is excited to present the next installment of their Jazz Residency collaboration for 2019. In its 6th year, the Kimmel's Jazz Residency program is designed for groups of local artists to create their amazing personal stories through the jazz music genre. Performing in the Kimmel's SEI Innovation Studio Thursday, June 6th will be trombonist Dan Blacksburg with percussionist Joseph Goldman. Friday, June 7th will feature the amazing sounds of guitarist David Allen, poet laureate Raquel Salas Rivera, and violinist Diana Monroe. And June 8th, the soulful Latin American composer Dario Peñazek, lyricist Maya Peñazek, and singer Ariacine Trujillo. Tickets on sale now for these special BYO events. Visit kimmelcenter.org or call 215-893-1999.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans, but in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency. and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
EcoWord. Wednesdays on Reality Check with Charles Ellison.
4 p.m. till 7 p.m.
Right here on Word Radio.
And WordRadio.com.
1 in every 4 of us can't make ends meet. We can keep pre-K for our children and still get rid of that ridiculous soda tax. Drug injection sites are not safe, and someone gets killed almost every day in Philadelphia. From poverty to potholes, we can do better. I am Anthony Hardy Williams, and I have been listening to you.
We can move Philadelphia forward together. Vote Anthony Hardy Williams for mayor. Paid for by Williams for mayor.
Was that a contraction?
Will I have a private room? Should I deliver with a doctor or a midwife? Can I try for a VBAC?
How much weight should I be gaining?
Is there a doctor on site?
Is it time to push?
How am I supposed to fit all of these appointments in?
Can I still exercise?
From prenatal care through delivery to postpartum support, including our Level 3 NICU for babies needing extra care. When you have questions, Einstein Maternity Care has answers. Make your appointment at 1-800-EINSTEIN.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. Mother's Day month. Time to celebrate mothering in families. Grandmothering, sisters, sons, daughters, mothering, and indeed mothering by fathers taking good care of their children, and sometimes children who are not their own. Ask these people what they want. They'll say, I just want everyone to be good to each other, and no matter what, we're family. Well, let's remember, good mothering is recognized by folks who can say, through it all, God is love, we are family. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Walter E. Sabbath Jr. Funeral Service is introducing Cremations Are Us by Sabbath. That's S-A-B-B-A-T-H. Cremations Are Us by Sabbath is the result of their 26 years of experience with individuals and families who choose cremation. Sabbath knows that families who choose cremation have the same needs as those who choose burial. Sabbath's new component, Cremations Are Us by Sabbath, emphasizes the wide selection of services they've always offered. Visit their website, sabbathcare.com, for details, or call 215-924-4101.
Election Day is Tuesday, May 21st.
Show up and bring a friend.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Philadelphia, independent black media.
Send me, I know you send me, darling, you send me, honest you do, honest you do, honest you do, whoa, you thrill me, I know you thrill me, darling, you thrill me, honest you do. At first I thought it was infatuation, but ooh, it's lasted so long. Now I find myself wanting to marry you and take you home. Whoa, you send me, I know you send me, I know you send me, honest you do.
We're back. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source, Black Women's Leadership. You're here with Joanne Bell, Emma Chappelle, And Joey Temple is joining us in the studio today, and we're talking about MOVE. When we went to commercial, we were going to get some comments from Emma Chappelle.
Well, what I was going to, I guess, add to what Joey was saying is that what I remember it when was the difficult thing. Everybody was concerned about the kids in the house and why they would do that when the kids were in the house. And also I remember that the neighborhood, the people who lived in that neighborhood were organized and very forceful that they wanted those people out of that house. And I know they went down to see the mayor on a regular basis and almost harassed him to do something about it. And I think that had a lot to do with how the temperature on the whole thing built up to a point, to a frenzy, where at sometime that they had to do something because the mayor was Mayor Good was under a lot of pressure to do something. And he kept going out and trying to meet with the neighborhood and send people out to deal with what are the concerns of the neighborhood. And those people just would not do anything else because they said they would walk across the tops of the roofs and they would do all these kinds of things to threaten them.
The bullhorns and
at night and everything. And so they were demanding that the mayor do something about it. But I'm sure they did not imagine that what happened is what was going to happen because many of them lost their homes too.
They was all moved out of the homes on Mother's Day.
That's right.
Remember?
Yes.
The same day.
That's right. That year,
34 years ago.
Yes.
On Mother's Day, they were all told they had to get out of the house.
Get out of the house.
And then at 6 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah, it happened. Everything happened.
Everything came. They, Ed Rendell and what her name, the old lady, son of Warren, whatever, and they went out there to present the warrant, and then they opened up with gunfire, just like they did August the 8th. They opened up with gunfire, and MOVE had no weapons, so they
to protect themselves. No, and that was the scary part with the kids.
I think what we found out. See, now we understand what one might say, the trickery. The lies that the police department will tell, and so for some, they built up this whole thing that they had all of these guns when they didn't have it, and so they came out there under the assumption that they had all of this ammunition and stuff, and they came with more ammunition than what was needed for it, and set off something that was ugly.
That's right.
And there's always an over-response to people of color. What was it, out west, the Branch Davidian people, where they sat outside for months, where this group of people who refused to leave and refused subpoenas and refused everything. And there was so much patience with them. So much patience.
It was white folks.
Yeah.
But, you know what I'm saying?
Right. That's the point that I'm making. But there was very little patience, and we understand what the neighborhood. I wanted to add one more thing. One of the things leading up to the May 13th was that, and I'm trying to remember what the state rep was there at the time. Do you remember, Joey?
The one that died?
Yes. Now, yeah. I mean, he went on to do campaigns and stuff. But he was the state rep of that district. And it was Lucian Blackwell, all of them, was asking the community to exercise some patience until after Wilson got elected. And so the community felt that they stayed quiet during the election process as to not cause Wilson not to be elected as the first African-American mayor. But then, a year into his mayoralship, they felt that they had been forgotten and that MOVE was not a priority. And so a group of elected officials went to see Wilson to tell him that they wanted him to take an action. And I don't think, and I guess history will say, that it wasn't well planned out.
Well, you got to look at something, Joe. My first teacher in radio was Mattie Humphrey. And I remember one weekend Mattie Humphrey went out, took a group of people, went out to meet with the residents of MOVE to resolve the confrontation. The next year, the residents kept calling Mary's show, and you know, this and that, doing all that. And then Mary said something to Wilson. You know, I found out something going on, so I'm getting ready to go to Florida. Don't do what I think you're going to do. But when she left and she came back, it was a different story. It was already done. You know, because sometimes when you sit in power, and you got it today, when you sit in power, you got some folks that are sitting there, but they're not really the real ones that's calling the real shots. And when you realize that there's another power to be over that power base, you know, like I said, all this stimulate because of one person's security force that was still in place, Frank Rizzo. Ed Wilson came in there, and that's why I'm glad when he put Willie Williams back.
Absolutely.
When he put Willie Williams back in office.
Not back. He promoted him up.
Promoted
him up.
Everything started to change.
And they did. Let me just say this. I was around, but by that time I was in the good administration. One of the first things that happened with Willie Williams is that they tried to undermine him by all leaving to go on vacation at the same time. To lead, because they really did. They did lots of trickery in the very beginning on Willie Williams. They did not like the fact that he had been promoted to police commissioner, and the FOP was not very helpful as they are not today. And Willie Williams spent a lot of time trying to move pieces of chess around to get more blacks up into the command that could have his back and to support him, because they did some very vicious things to him.
I mean, at the time, you know, I remember Willie Williams was one of the strongest black police commanders we had in this town. And then you had to deal with the racist policies. You know, sometimes people tell me I need to write a book. I ain't into all that. But then they had the racist policies that, you know, MOVE, number one on your agenda. You got to get rid of MOVE. If we ain't MOVE, it's RAM. You got to give it, because back then it was all about the revolutionary groups. But see, people didn't realize that, and you brought up, one of y'all just brought up about the children.
Yeah.
Those children was taken to the park every day.
Every day.
Every day. Now, if they wanted to what
They
was
could have taken them
what was
there.
the master plan?
That's
Why
right.
would you destroy the foundation of a child to get at their mothers and fathers?
They killed the children.
You know, they killed everybody except for Birdie and Momona. You know, everybody in there was wiped out. We coming out. They used to hear Bernie say, we come on, we don't come out. They start shooting. Why would you shoot at a child and a woman anyway? You know what I'm saying? You know, just to please the so-called powers to be.
That's what it was.
You know, see, that's why.
Well, when you when you constantly are dehumanizing people, then you treat them like they are not human and they don't exist, and then they should not be treated differently. And that's why we say we challenge, Emma and I challenge the press here every time they write stories about African Americans and say, and you know, we're talking about calling them what the wolf packs and stuff. We challenged them several years ago about wolf packs, because you can see that whenever a group of young whites commits some sort of behavior and they're in groups, they're not referred to in any animal terms. And so when you start to instill what you think of people by calling them certain sorts of names, then you dehumanize them and you don't have them to be seen as being worthy of all of these protections. And those children were not seen as being worthy
of
protection.
Well, in fact, they called that MOVE group terrorists, if I recall.
Yeah, they called
them cult. They said it was a cult, and then it was a terrorist.
It's a terrorist because they didn't agree with the philosophy of John Africa.
That's right.
You know, but see, my thing is this, and I'm told Mike I want to do it, but I'm going to do it. Any black person that forgets the history of this day is a hypocrite. because the Jews have never allowed us to forget about the Holocaust, so we should never forget about our Black Holocaust that happened right here in Philadelphia.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And another vision, a principle is this. You know, we sit back and we talking about it, and we do this situation where we gonna point this person. Yeah, they called us words that was used daily amongst ourselves. But you know, when you're in that bullhorn and you do it, and you ain't respectful to the reality of what's going on. You know, I understand Louise Africa. I understand Pam. I understand all the philosophy. You know, Mo and them came in and talked to me and said, Joey, thank you for reminding people what happened in Chester. You know,
right.
That's the lost part of there, because Chester invasion played a major part in May 13th. But back to the reality point, we got people who are incarcerated right now who shouldn't even be in jail. You know,
many people
who shouldn't even be in jail.
Many people.
But because of this racist regime they call Philadelphia, or whatever the hell they call it, they decided to put all the weight on them. Just like if I die today, I know what they're gonna say about me. I firebombed Stan Cat's office. That's a lie. But I got charged with it, so I don't care about that. But the reality part, when you know your history, you know you're not going to do the failure. And some of us need to start teaching our children what really happened on May the 13th, 1985, at 5:20, when that device came and not destroyed just the whole neighborhood in West Philadelphia, but destroyed us as a voting people.
Yes,
when I hear Maurice calling here, sometimes I get mad, but you know I understand where he's coming from. But we got it. As I told y'all just a while ago, you know, I ain't down with this thing coming on next week. I got a shirt on, Black Lives Matter on it, we vote. But the most important thing is, I pray next time around, whatever, there'll be a strong black woman step up to the plate. Because if a woman was running right now in this city, she'd be the mayor of Philadelphia. That's all I got to say. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I agree. I think it's time. We all agree that it's time for it, and we hope with our group, Black Women's Leadership Council, that we're working on that. We're trying to bring up women who are interested in politics and, as you say, will step forward and consider running for the position of mayor.
Well, we think at some time in the future, Joey, we want to thank you for being in the studio with us.
Thank you. A lot of good information.
A lot of good information, and I'm sure for the rest of the day you'll assist.
No, the rest of the day I'm about ready. See, Joanne, one thing about me, since the good Lord blessed me to be focused, and I stay focused on my health. The only thing, I got two people I'm working with on elections. One is that the women seem to have a problem with, is Jules, and the other one is my Janie. Other than that, I'm like, I don't
What's
know.
the last one?
It's Janie Blackwell.
Oh, Janie. Okay.
Janie Blackwell.
Okay, you said my Janie.
Not the. You know, everybody know where my heart is at on that. But I just encourage people to teach your children the history of what's going on. You know, you're gonna hear people say bad things about, well, you know, I heard Renfro say something about Curtis. The only problem I got with Curtis Jones right now is he introduced a bill to put Georgie Wood's name up on the Dell, and he went out of his way to put Wilson's name up on a sign, but he ain't go out of his way to make sure Georgie's name got up on that Dell. And I thought about that because Georgie's birthday was on Saturday, but I'm do what I gotta do. You know, I've been low key. I don't say too much unless people get under my skin. But you know, May 13th is a day I never allow people to forget. You know, because that's what was important to me. Never allow nobody to forget the pain and misery that we all suffered. And right now, we still suffer.
And 61 families suffered that
And
day.
not only that, each and every one of us is in the studio suffered.
That's right.
No, the whole city
suffered.
Suffered, yes.
So y'all take care and God bless.
Thank you, Joe.
All right,
Thank you.
take care.
Thank you, Joey. So, I think, Joey's always has thoughtful things to say.
Yeah, he's got a lot of history.
And he's got a lot of history. And so where are we now? So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming election on Tuesday.
All right.
And we want to make sure that people understand that it's important.
It is.
very important to get out. This morning I was looking on online on Philly.com, and it said that more people are for charter schools
Yes.
than not, and that's surprising because we've heard very differently to the contrary. And if people, I imagine, are accurately polled, because we were told that it was a draining of the resources of the school district for charter schools, but when you don't have choice, I think we consign children to go to bad schools, and we don't do as much about these bad schools as we should. Mm-hmm. And one of the conversations that you and I had was that after this election, we want to get black women's leadership to go out and really draw attention to some of these schools that these kids should not be in, and that there should be some immediate attention paid, or those children should be relocated to safe
Absolutely.
Structures, and that we should just say that we have no more patience with this.
Absolutely not. And you know, we've been looking at that when we were doing all our work for the scorecard and everything, and we found that so many of these schools are in such horrible shape that when the kids go in, they have no air conditioning, or in the summer, and no heat in the winter. In some instances, they don't even have toilet paper in the bathrooms. I mean, I just can't believe that the school system would allow some of the atrocities that they're allowing in these schools, in these neighborhoods where the kids are going. And so that's probably why people are interested, some people are supporting the charter schools, because many of the charter schools are new buildings. You know what I'm saying? They're being fixed
or
up.
Safer structures.
Or safer structures. And so they think if they put their kids in some place like that, they get a better education, which is not necessarily so. We hope it is. Some of the charter schools are doing very well, and we hope that continues. But we also don't want to drain the resources from public schools, because it's our constitutional right that our kids be educated through the public school system, and I don't ever want to see the public school system put out of business.
No, I don't either. But I think we're going to support it. I support strong teacher pay.
Yes.
Because I think that we should pay our teachers just like we pay our plumbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the plumbers make some good money.
And our electricians, they all make a lot of money.
And because what you pay people and what you think is extremely important. On the other hand, I want those teachers who are going to get good pay and great benefits to treat all children like it's their children, and to make it a priority and an importance that these kids learn, and that they work with communities, because I know that we have some members who fight every day.
Right.
Sylvia Wright and Quabella fight every day for better circumstances for children, for our children in this system.
Right.
And I don't think that they get a fair shake. And we're going to be watching the new school board to see exactly where they go with it. And
they've been pretty quiet.
Yes, and what those...
we hope they're getting themselves together, right?
And the budget priorities.
Yes.
You know, because I think we were having a discussion that a lot of times when the behind-the-scenes discussions as it relates to the school district budget largely is, and it used to be divvying up who's going to get the contracts.
Yes.
And so obviously it's not ever people of color, very rarely, but we want to make sure that the people who are vested with the authority to run this school district view this as a real emergency, because those kids should not be in those schools at all.
Right. Some of them schools are so bad, nobody should be in them.
No, they're old, and the conditions are very, very bad. And I know that there's been some money lately dedicated to fixing some, but I think that we may have to consider alternative structures and alternative places for kids. We're going to go take a break. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM, and we'll be right back.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans. But in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Listen live at WordRadio.com.
You're listening to The Source
On Word Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mom loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good to mom. Blood thicker than the mud. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. What of it? What of it? Still checking each other out. Hey, nobody wants to blow. Nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave cause your heart is there. But you can't stay cause you've been somewhere else. You can't cry cause you look broke down. But you're crying anyway cause you're all broke down. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Oh, yeah, a family affair.
We're back. You're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership. And Emma, you wanted to talk a little bit about the election coming up and what the offices are.
Yes, I did. I hope everyone remembers, because we've been talking about this election for a month or so now, that the people that we're voting for this on May 21st are the mayor, the district council people, district council members, as we heard today, right?
At large and district council.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to say it. And at large city council members, also the city commissioner, register of wills, and multiple judges. As many of you know, we've had, and don't forget that there are 4 charter changes that we're going to vote on. And we talked about it, Eric, earlier when Derek Green called in, And one of them was to change the gender-neutral titles for council to council members instead of councilmen. Second was the designated office for immigration, and they've indicated that there'll be no budget change as a result of that, because they already had passed in 2013 an executive order to establish an office for immigration. The third question was the $15 minimum wage, to increase from the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, which will take place in stages and end by 2025. And the fourth question that we're going to vote on this time around is traffic cops, to allow traffic cops to help direct the traffic so that we don't have our police out there doing that. And I think that's a good idea, because we have a lot of traffic congestion and nobody's steering it around, and as a result, everybody's tied up in long lines of traffic. So maybe, hopefully, the traffic cops will be good. And as Councilmember Green said, it also will bring people into new jobs and hopefully prepares them so that they may want to go back to school and become police officers. And I thought that was a good motivation for that to happen.
Yeah, we need anything that brings more employment into the city, and
it's very important.
To address the congestion is a really important thing to do.
Yes. And so those were the main things. I just wanted to remind people over and over again how important this election is. May 21st, that we have to come out and vote. And people of color, we're asking you to come out and vote. It's so critical, because they say every year that, well, every time there's an election, we don't vote. Let's turn that around this year and make sure we get to the polls.
Well, that's how we lose our democracy. If we believe that we live in a democratic society and we don't exercise the franchise and become easily discouraged, we're not telling you right now how to vote. We're telling you we've given you enough information to be able to make an informed decision. We've tried through delivering articles. We've tried through having people in to meet and talk with you, to give you as much information as we can. And so do you want to go over those offices once more so that they understand who they're going to, what offices are up?
All right.
And don't forget the judges.
No. We're voting for the mayor. We're voting for district and council at large members, district council members and council at large members, city commissioners, register of wills, and multiple judges, all the areas of judges, common pleas, municipal judge, and superior court judge. Those are the three areas of judges. We had forums. We've had forums for each of these categories, and we had a lot of judge candidates come out at our last forum, as we did also for the sheriff and also for the register of wills. And then we had forum before for the mayor, and we had at least two candidates come out, Anthony Williams and Alan Buckowitz. And then we had the candidates before that. We had for city council and city council at large. And so we've been doing everything we can to encourage people to come out and vote, because it's so important. That's why so many people died, so that we would have a right to vote. And that was our foreparents and forefathers and mothers and fathers who died for that. And we need to make sure that we vote.
Here are some of the issues that we raised during these forums let me start with the mayor's race.
Yes.
We wanted to know more about where each candidate stood on stop and frisk. And we wanted to know whether it was a fair concept to be utilized. And do they believe that the implementation of stop and frisk has reduced crime in Philadelphia? And we can say that studies show that it has not reduced crime. And in fact, we talked about the humiliation that people feel when they're stopped just on the basis of their color, that they're deemed to be suspicious because their bodies happen to be somewhere where folk think that it shouldn't be, or they could just be right on their block. And so we thought that we have to feel that we feel, however, that we should take a closer look at that, and we would like that practice stopped. And so we've asked those questions. We're also concerned about gun violence, and read something that there were 4 shootings in one day. Was that Friday, Emma?
Yes. 5 young men were shot down on the street. And the sad part is that I understand it was done by kids, 15 and 16 years old. They just came out and just sort of blasting them with guns. And you know, we've talked about this over Mother's Day weekend with my family. And one of the things we felt is that a lot of these young people are playing these games. And these games are shoot 'em up kind of games. And it's gotten so that the young people, we believe that the young people just don't even think of people as humans anymore. They're out there shooting up because they can get a gun, and they're playing the game. And we're losing lives as a result of it. And all too often you go into certain neighborhoods and you just don't know if you're going to come out of there. I know for sure that the police must know where the dangerous areas are, and that they could do more about this. And stop wasting time on stop and frisk and go and clean up these neighborhoods where these young people have these guns and are just killing people.
There was a second story that I read. I was trying to find it, about a woman who was sitting in her car. A 54-year-old woman was sitting in her car and got shot.
Mm-hmm. And some people walked past her, if you remember. They walked past her and she was sitting there minding her own business, and they came back and just shot her because they had a gun and could do it.
So I believe that we are in a critical stage here, and that we really need to understand that your vote counts on Monday. On Tuesday, May 21st, and we're talking about stop and frisk. We're talking about violence and guns, and we're also talking about the beverage tax. We've made the case here for the last few months that the burden of the tax falls disproportionately on people who cannot afford that tax, who don't have cars, and who cannot get across the county line.
Right.
We've also talked about that there are people who have markets like Jeff Brown, who employ people who are returning citizens who never had a real job or a real chance, and now they have a real job and a real chance. And I thought that if you are for this tax, you're trading constituencies.
That's right.
I saw some statistics, I'm not quite sure of it, but better than 60 or 70% of the building and trades live outside the city. They live in the suburbs. They're mostly white. There's not, I don't even know if 1% of the building and trades, with the exception of the laborers, are African American or Hispanic. And so therefore they're not getting the jobs. And so I think that constituency got traded off with a constituency that is able to come home from serving time and to be able to be accepted back into society and to be given a living wage to raise a family. And then suddenly their incomes are in jeopardy because people with this soda tax are now going to go across county lines. And let me just talk about another myth. If I'm a consumer and I'm going to go shop, let's say on City Avenue, I am not going to just stop at buying my beverages. I'm going to buy everything that I would normally buy.
That's right.
And
once you get in the store.
Once you get in. Then we were told that this was only an issue for ShopRite and Jeff Brown. Now we later learned that Acme, who in the beginning said very silently about this, is now speaking up to say that it affects them, and not even to present the thousands of mom and pop businesses that are suffering. So when you make policy and you don't examine the impact, and just I remember when we had Councilwoman Maria Sanchez, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she brought with her a whole maybe 3 or 4 pages of.
That's right.
Of things that was being taxed, other than soda.
32.
Yeah, things that were getting cut because it had sugar in it. So I think that was a poorly constructed tax, and it doesn't serve the community at large. Then we talked a lot about gentrification and the gentrification issue. And I think this says it best with former Mayor John Street. Former Mayor John Street has, in my mind, is one of the smartest men that I've ever met. When I was back at District Council 47, I used to go. So I think that our engineer walked away, and we're now okay. One of the smartest men that I've ever met. When I was back at District Council 47, we used to visit his office as a councilman street, not council president, to ask about questions that affected our membership. And I used to dread going into his office because I knew I was going to get a lecture when I asked him, when we came to lobby him for support. But that lecture was also a teaching moment, because I did not know anyone up to that point who knew the charter as well as he did and knew the regulations. And so I trust him implicitly with his knowledge and what he knows. For him to take a position to sue the city and Mayor Kenny over AVI, he knows from whence he's talking, and that he calls it a backdoor tax. And it's okay to try to run a city because we need resources, but there's another thing, not to own up to the tax that you won't come through the front door for, and that you're putting a burden on the people of the city of Philadelphia. And it's really difficult when certain people get to move into the city of Philadelphia and get a 10-year break while living side by side with people who are struggling to stay in the city of Philadelphia. It is a very difficult thing. And so we are...
First of all, we're being overtaxed in our communities. As you said, I mean, we have the greatest respect for former Mayor John Street and what he's doing with this new lawsuit. But what we've brought out throughout the show is that we are being taxed, one tax after another, and something has to happen to give us some kind of relief. There's always some reason for a tax, and so therefore, I think the fact that former Mayor Street came out with this lawsuit and is willing to justify it like no one else can, we ought to look at it and make sure that we understand it, and it obviously is a bad tax for our city.
So we're going to take a quick break and come back and do our last segment. It went by real quickly today, Emma.
Yes, it did.
So you're listening to WRD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership, and we'll return in a minute.
Get your money straight.
Get my money right.
With Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
This Memorial Day, Sugar House Casino is letting you drive home a winner. Play your favorite slots and table games all month long to earn entries to win a 2019 Cadillac XT4. Visit SugarHouseCasino.com for more details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Word Radio congratulates President and CEO Sarah Lomax Reese on being the recipient of the Pass the Power Entrepreneur of Today and Tomorrow Award, presented by the Women of Tomorrow. Sarah and others will be acknowledged on Wednesday, May 15th during a special event at Ridgeland Mansion, 4100 Shimoni Drive, from 6 till 9 p.m. The event will feature music by jazz singer Imani, wine tasting by Moore Brothers Wine, delectable desserts, special beverages, and more. All proceeds will benefit the Greater Philadelphia program. Join the celebration and get your tickets today. For more information, visit PassThePowerEvent.org. Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
girl. Now didn't I think it, baby? Didn't I think it, baby? But this time I'm really leaving you, girl. Oh, hope you know it, baby. Hope you know it, baby. 10 times or more, yes, I walk out the door. Get this thing through your head, there'll be no more. Didn't I blow your mind this time? Didn't I? Didn't I blow your mind this time? Didn't I? Didn't I do it, baby? 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 10 times or more, yes, I walked out the door. Get this thing through your head, there'll be no more.
We're back for our final segment. You're listening to WRD Word, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You're listening to The Source. You're listening to Black Women's Leadership. And it's just Emma Chappelle and I left this.
That's right. We've had a full day, though.
We had a very full day. And so, Emma, tell us, you pulled up the lawsuit, and we're going to close out with the information on the lawsuit.
Well, former Mayor John Street filed a class action lawsuit last Friday in Common Pleas Court in an effort to prevent Mayor Jim Kenney's real estate assessment increases. And explained the plaintiff in the suit, Robert Cunningham, is an elderly resident of North Philadelphia who's lived in his current home for almost 48 years. And according to the lawsuit, Cunningham has received a 61% tax increase. And they said this is the most egregious distortion of the democratic process that I have seen, said John Street, in 50 years. No other administration since the enactment of the 1951 Home Rule Charter has had the capacity or the inclination to raise hundreds of millions of real estate tax dollars without a vote of council. This is the most blatant and flagrant perversion by a modern-day mayor and a clear violation of one's democracy pillars, taxation without representation. The lawsuit names Kenney, Finance Director Rob Duval, and Chief Assessment Officer Michael Piper as defendants. It seeks declaratory, injunctive, and mandamus relief for taxpayers who have been overassessed and charged too much for their properties. The suit claims that more than 200,000 residential properties across the city have been overassessed. It's a shame that former Mayor Street is using, someone said that they thought it was a shame that he's using his law license to do this, but we think it's the best thing that he could have done because everybody is complaining about these new assessments, especially in the neighborhoods where the gentrification is taking place. And as you mentioned, they're bringing all these new developers in. They're getting 10-year tax abatement, and the people who live in those neighborhoods are being assessed more money now because of the increase in value of the neighborhoods.
So the other thing that I would like to say is that whoever said it was a shame that he was using his law license to bring this ought to be ashamed.
That person works for the mayor.
Yeah. Well, that person,
Michael Dunn.
Yeah, well, that Michael Dunn ought to be ashamed of himself. You know, he's a talking head, but he could have brought up a different point. He could have said, listen, we sort of we disagree with the mayor, but we feel so strongly about our position that we feel that we can win this lawsuit in court, instead of saying that it's a shame.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear his...
It's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame because he's dismissing what people actually feel, and he's being disrespectful to the man who, at his age, whose taxes have been raised.
That's right. 61%.
Yes. But again, listen to the flippancy of the spokespeople, and it should tell you something about the administration. We want to remind people that there is a debate tonight.
Yes.
And that they need to watch. The debate is on Channel 10 at 7 p.m. this evening. This will be the first time that you will visually be able to see
the
three of them together. You make your assessments for that. So, Emma, you got something to close out with?
Yes. I want to close out by wishing all of the mothers that listen to our show a happy belated Mother's Day. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and we didn't get a chance to mention it much on Friday, but I think that we have a lot of women that listen to our show, and many of them are mothers. And since mothers are miracle makers, when they have these children, they are definitely miracle makers. I want to congratulate them and wish them the very best. Happy belated Mother's Day from Black Women's Leadership Council.
So, I'm going to do some cake baking today while I watch the debate. Yeah, I have my granddaughter's coming over. We're going to bake a cake for my other granddaughter who is going to have a birthday tomorrow.
You're gonna bring me a slice on Wednesday?
I'm going to bring you a slice on Wednesday. I'm going to bring you a slice of that birthday cake that we're going to be making. And so we look forward to being back here on Wednesday. And we enjoyed being with you today. We want to thank our guests, Ernest Owens, Maurice Floyd, and Joey Temple. And Emma, was you and I holding it down.
That's right. And we want to thank Kayla again. Thank you, Kayla, for providing us with the good music and producing our show.
Yes, and so we were kind of wondering about whether we were going to get that love music again.
I know. That was her mood last Wednesday. It changed.
Yeah.
She got over it over the weekend.
Kayla, so what you got taking us out with?
Smokey Robinson.
Oh, good. That's a good one.
Smokey? Okay. You're surprising us?
All right.
All right.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening.
See you on Wednesday.